If you've been watching the Saskatoon housing market lately, you might feel like things are slowing down. Sales are down, inventory is still tight, and yet prices keep climbing. So what is actually happening in Saskatoon right now? Are we heading toward a slowdown, or is this just the calm before the spring market rush? Today, I'm breaking down the February 2026 real estate numbers for Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Martensville, and Warman, and at the end of this video, I'll explain exactly what these numbers mean for Saskatoon buyers, sellers, and investors. I'm Conor, Palendat, realtor with Realty Real Estate Group. If you need an experienced team to help you navigate this market, my contact info is in the description below. Before we zoom into Saskatoon, let's quickly look at the big picture across Saskatchewan. Across the province in February, 825 homes sold, sales were down about 16% year over year, but still close to long-term historical averages. So while sales are slightly softer compared to the past couple of years, demand is still very present. The bigger issue continues to be supply. New listings dropped again, and the inventory levels remain well below historic norms. In fact, the province currently sits at around 4.27 months of supply. So while we're starting to see Saskatchewan overall getting closer to balance, many individual cities are still extremely tight, and that brings us to Saskatoon. In February 2026, 271 homes sold and sales were down about 16% compared to last year. But here's where things get interesting. At the same time that sales declined, new listings also dropped. That means fewer homes were coming onto the market, so our inventory never had the chance to catch up or build any kind of stockpile. By the end of February, Saskatoon had 614 total listings, and roughly 164 of those were conditionally sold, which means the real number of actual available homes was closer to 450 active properties. For a city the size of Saskatoon, that is extremely tight, and this is why we're still seeing strong upward pressure on prices. The benchmark price in Saskatoon reached $421,600, which is up about 4.7% compared to last year, and the market currently sits at just 2.27 months of supply. To put that into perspective, anything under 3 months of supply is considered a strong seller's market. So, despite slightly lower sales numbers, the core fundamentals of Saskatoon real estate remain extremely strong and competitive. Now, let's take a look just north of Saskatoon at Martensville, which saw a quieter February in terms of sales. Only 6 homes sold, which is down significantly from last year. But again, the big story here is supply. Martensville had only 8 new listings and just 11 total homes available for sale. That is a tiny amount of inventory for an entire city. Because of that, Martensville currently sits at about 1.83 months of supply. And when inventory stays that low, prices tend to keep rising. In fact, the benchmark price in Martensville reached $427,600, which is up about 6% year over year. So even with much fewer sales, the supply shortage continues to push values upward. Now, let's head a little further north to Warman, which continues to be one of the fastest growing communities in the region. In February, 17 homes sold, with sales slightly up year over year. New listings came in at 24 homes, which helped add a bit more supply to the market, but inventory still only sits around 56 homes total. That puts Warman at roughly 3.3 months of supply, which is slightly more balanced than Martensville or Saskatoon, but it still leans towards a seller-friendly market. Prices also continue to trend upward, with the benchmark price in Warman reaching $505,700, which is up about 8.4% from last year. That is one of the strongest price increases in the region. So great, I've thrown all the numbers at you, but what do they practically mean for those in the housing market? For buyers, the biggest challenge right now continues to be inventory. There simply aren't enough homes available. That means when the right product hits the market, competition can still happen very quickly. The good news for buyers is that sales activity has cooled ever so slightly, which means the market isn't quite as chaotic as it was during the peak frenzy the past couple of years. But waiting for a major price drop probably isn't the best strategy. Prices are still rising across the region, and with inventory looking like it's going to stay tight heading into spring, we are staring down another crazy competitive season. On the flip side, if you're a seller, this is still a very strong market for you. Low inventory means your home has a better chance of standing out. Well-priced homes in desirable areas are still moving very quickly, but pricing strategy matters more than ever because buyers are A, more informed, and B, more fatigued when it comes to the hot market. Overpriced homes will sit longer than they would have a year or two ago. Want to avoid that? Give us a call. Now, if you're an investor, trying to determine value with prices rising is always tough and unpredictable, so you should be focusing on supply trends. Saskatoon's population continues to grow. Migration into Saskatchewan has been strong, and housing supply simply hasn't kept up. That combination is one of the strongest long-term drivers of real estate value, which is why Saskatoon remains one of the more stable real estate markets in Canada. So, if we wanted to summarize February 2026 in one sentence, it would be this. Demand is steady, supply is still tight, and prices continue to move upward. Yes, sales may have cooled slightly compared to the past couple of years, but the lack of inventory is really keeping things competitive. Everyone's watching as we head into spring to see if there will be a meaningful amount of new listings, and I really hope we do get it. But if I had to put money on it, I would guess we aren't going to get enough to avoid another competitive spring market. So if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a like and subscribe because every week I break down the Saskatoon real estate market so you know exactly what's happening and how it affects you. Thanks for watching and have a great day.